If we're honest, it wasn't the best Singapore Grand Prix. Unless you're Lando Norris, because it definitely went exactly as he wanted. We should start there, really. Lando won the race by over 20 seconds in the end, controlling it from start to finish. He actually stayed in the lead on the first lap, but he did have a number of incidents during the race, brushing the wall with his front wing and going off track when lapping Franco Colapinto. At one point, he was 30 seconds ahead of Max Verstappen. That's a Verstappen-esque lead. More importantly, the McLaren seemed to get there easily. Early in the race, Verstappen was told by his engineers they felt Norris and McLaren were pushing the tyres too hard early on. But when Lando was asked his pace level, he said 6 out of 10. And then he was told to build a 5-second lead by the mid-teens, so let's say lap 15. And by lap 10, he was already leading by 12 seconds. He definitely had pace in hand. For Verstappen though, he did the maximum he could. And after the fastest lap was stolen away from Norris by Ricciardo, we'll talk about that later, it now means that Verstappen could finish second to Norris in every remaining race and sprint and still win the title. That 1 point for fastest lap could mean everything. Another absurd stat is that the gap is currently 52 points, which is exactly what it was after Miami, which was 12 races ago. McLaren definitely haven't maximised their points, and Norris especially. I still think the championship is very much in the hands of Verstappen. Quickly on Ferrari, they were the one team that could have challenged McLaren, I think. Leclerc did have a great race, managing to work his way from 9th to 5th after running long. He breezed past Hamilton on fresh tyres, but faced a strong defence from Russell and couldn't quite get past. Still had a great race, but I'm left to think what could have been if he started at the front. Mercedes, on the other hand, well, they ruined themselves. They started Hamilton on the soft tyres, and I felt like it was a bad decision as soon as I saw it. They were clearly hoping that Hamilton could jump Max Verstappen or Lando, or maybe both of them, at the start of the race, but considering how quick those two drivers are, even if he did, I don't see how he'd have been able to keep those positions. The soft tyre strat ruined Hamilton's race because he had to pit way before any of the other front runners and ended up in traffic. When his teammate pitted, he not only came out ahead of him, but on much fresher tyres. Hamilton was then passed by Piastri and Leclerc on fresher tyres. Mercedes could have got a podium, I think, if they had started Hamilton on mediums, because his soft tyre pace probably hindered his teammate behind as well. Also, neither driver did post-race interviews, after both struggled with dehydration. A video of Russell getting out of the car was quite concerning. We know from radio messages at previous races that for some reason the Merc's seat, and obviously cockpit, gets very hot for some reason, and this compounded with the humid conditions at the Singapore circuit led to a pretty rough race for both of the Mercedes drivers. I thought Colapinto was unlucky not to get into the points. He had a very good race again. Having a blistering start, he made a brilliant move into turn 1. Albon got on the radio complaining that his teammate dive-bombed into turn 1, but that wasn't the case at all. It was a controlled and lovely move, and the sign of a confident driver. Albon sadly later retired with an overheating engine. Then we have Daniel Ricciardo. I don't want to dwell on Ricciardo too much because I believe there's going to be an announcement this week on his future, probably tomorrow. It feels like it was his last race though, doesn't it? He was very emotional in the post-race interviews. He received a guard of honour from people at the hospitality unit. It just feels final to me. Liam Lawson is expected to replace him for the rest of the season. He also managed to get the fastest lap, which incidentally took that point off Norris, helping Verstappen. I don't think there was a conspiracy here between teams. I think RB did it because it was going to be his final race, not to help Red Bull. I'll have more on that in another video when his future is announced. It wasn't a classic race, and for the very first time, there was no safety car. Big updates are coming for the teams in Austin though, for Mercedes, but more importantly Red Bull, that they think will correct their issues. Will the order change yet again? Can McLaren hold out? We'll see. As of next week, I am away for 3 weeks, and I won't be back until the weekend of the next race. So if there is any news in the meantime, maybe about driver swaps, maybe about something else leading up to the race, including upgrades, I'm sadly not going to be able to cover that until I'm back on that weekend. I do have some really good videos planned though for while I'm away, So keep an eye out for those, and I'll see you in Austin.